Welcome to Tenacity with Sonia C, the podcast where entrepreneurs, founders, and ambitious professionals come to learn from those who have walked the path, navigating challenges and achieving success. Whether it's thriving in business, pivoting, scaling for growth, fundraising, or finding work-life balance, dealing with loneliness, adversity, or overcoming personal struggles. Our guests share the insights and strategies that have empowered them to level up. I'm your host, Sonia, and let's get started. My guest today is Anthony Tulai. Anthony is the founder and CEO of Hopp Dating, a platform redefining how we meet and connect in real life. Anthony's journey is fascinating. He started with a degree in nanotechnology engineering from the University of Waterloo, traveled the world, and then pivoted into iOS development before launching the Hopp app. Unlike traditional dating apps that keep users endlessly swiping and chatting, Hop brings authenticity back to dating by focusing on real-world interactions. We'll discuss his journey as a tech founder and the challenges of building a startup in the competitive dating app space. Hi, Anthony. Welcome to the show. How are you today?
Hi, Sonia. I'm well. How are you?
I'm great. Can't complain. I mean, I could, but I'm not gonna.
Right. Yeah, that's the best policy right there.
So, you ready to get right into our episode?
Sure, let's do it.
Okay.
Let's hop right in.
Hop right in, yes. So you have a background in nanotechnology engineering from the University of Waterloo.
Yeah.
What led you to build and launch the Hop dating app?
Yeah, so it was a bit of a journey from that to launching and running a dating app. The school when I went there was like pretty grueling, and I found out pretty quick that that field was really ripe for more um, like exploration, like not really like engineering work, but more like
Mm,
exploratory, like lab kind of work. It was still
mm,
like an emerging field. Whereas I really like to just kind of like solve problems and get things done and not really do like the research that much, right? Like give me a set of
okay.
tools and a problem, and then like that's more fun for me. And then to get to a dating app, I guess like, I'd been on and off dating apps myself. My friends had, and this was even
Well,
back from the
haven't we
day,
all?
right? Yeah, sure. Like I feel like most people at this point have touched on dating apps at some point if they've
Hmm.
been single or whatever. And this is going back even to the day when even online dating wasn't really socialized. Like Plenty of
Hmm.
Fish was just starting to make its appearance. Um, and sort of, most people you asked would say, oh, I wouldn't meet somebody from online. And now look how far we've come. Now it's like very normal. It's like most people wouldn't really have a problem with meeting somebody
Yeah.
offline. Anyway, so having had that experience and going through all that and talking through the issues with my friends and me being an engineer and liking to solve problems, I was like, nobody is really doing an app the way that we're all talking about it and like what the issues are and kind of how to solve that.
Mm,
So I was like,
yeah.
at a certain point, I had sort of like a break. I'd gone into software, which is like more kind of engineering focused, where you can solve problems and get like results from solving those problems
Hmm.
a lot quicker. And I was like, yeah, I think like this would be a fun project to try to take on. And so that's kind of
Take
how it
on, yeah.
kicked off. Yeah.
I mean, it's not like you chose something that's like easy. This is a huge challenge. And you're right. Like when Plenty of Fish, yeah, that's what it's called. When that came out, people were like, "Pff, like who's gonna like date online?" And before that was the videotapes that you would order and you would put them in your VHSs and you'd get like people saying, "Hey, I'm this." I think that's like the version
Yeah, I've
one of.
seen that. I've been lucky enough never to have experienced that, but I've seen that. Yeah, which is a
I've never
crazy start.
experienced it. I'm not that old, but I remember like watching it in movies and things like that. So, I think like with over time and even with COVID, where people were in their homes and they couldn't go out and meet people, it's just become the norm. But it's a norm that anyone I have this conversation with hates. The people that are in the apps, they hate it. The people that are off the apps are like, I'm never going back on them. There's
Yep.
something about like these apps that people just hate. And I guess part of it is I mean, I'm in tech, you're in tech. I
Sure.
think part of it is that like these apps are designed not necessarily for you to meet someone. I think you just get like really lucky if you do, because they're meant to keep you on so that they can keep making money. Because if you do go on them and you find love, you're not going to pay for a subscription, and then how are they going to make money?
Right, sure. They have to keep getting users coming in and everything. Right. So um, you're exactly right. And I think like that's been a big challenge. And people are kind of are sick of it. Nobody says that they like the experience. So we're like, well,
Yeah,
why is that? Why is that? And there's so many things. But the biggest part is that you're stuck in the app. Like
yeah,
people who are using dating apps, they spend 50 minutes or more per day in the apps.
yeah,
That's a usage statistic, and that's crazy. We only have 16 hours awake in a day if you're getting your sleep right.
yeah.
And that's there's so many other things you have to do. Like spending an hour in dating apps every day is wild. And then people aren't meeting up. It's like 3+ or more hours for people who are actively trying to meet people before they can actually meet someone. When we're like that time has to come down, because even when you do go and you ultimately meet someone, you spend all this time, you're chatting, which is like a chore. Once you've done it a couple of times, you're like, this is not fun anymore. It's like it's a
Yeah.
chore, like witty comment here, witty comment there. It's all through text. It's inorganic. It's not fun.
No.
So we're like, listen, I understand like the profiles and like having sort of like certain qualifications for somebody that you might want to date. I think like we all have that. We all have like
Yeah,
there's a couple, but beyond that, you need to meet somebody in real life to be
yeah.
able to. Is there chemistry? Is that dynamic? Um, and that can only be done face to face. You can't even do it over a call or over video. Not really. Like
No,
it's that there's
no.
those intangibles when you're there. Um,
Yeah.
making up a story about somebody over at the next table, whatever. Like
Yeah.
you can't. You just that has to be
People
done.
watch.
People watching, whatever, like
Yeah.
these little things. So we're like, the idea was, okay, let's establish that minimum baseline, and then find a fun, easy, safe way to get people from that match. Once they're like, okay, yeah, this is like something that I might consider, to, okay, why don't you just go have a coffee, go have a beer
Yeah.
if you drink, or whatever it is,
Yeah.
and just have that old school, hey, I just met you in a coffee shop or a bar, I'm out with my friends. You have that 15-minute conversation at the
Yeah.
bar, and then you figure out, hey, okay, I'd go on a date with this person. Like
Yeah.
that's even what this is. It's not even that real like date, hey, let's go out for dinner, let's grab a movie, whatever it
Yeah.
is. It's like it's that meetup at the bar where you're just chit-chatting and saying like, hey, is there a vibe
Yeah.
here? Like
So
that's
with
kind of
that
what we
being
want to get
said,
to. Yeah.
it's a very crowded space. Can you tell us a little bit about exactly how the app works?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, first and foremost, there's no chatting in the app. So people
Okay.
post their profile. That's like one of the biggest differentiators. And we're not the absolute only ones to do the no chatting, but the way we do it is a little bit different. So
Yeah.
once people match up, then what they can do is they can post a date option, okay, to all of their
Okay.
matches. It's like a post with, it could have like a location, or it could like let a radius and let your match choose. It could have like a date duration. We like to keep it to up to an hour as like a first kind of warm intro. It keeps it casual. So if people aren't having a good time, it's an easy out. Hey, it's been our hour's up. Like it was nice to meet you. I gotta
I'm
go.
out.
I'm out. Yeah. You could post a little caption, like something funny or like something that showcases your personality. Be like, hey, I'm looking to meet somebody who reads, and like post like, let's talk about my new favorite book, whatever it is. So then people will see from their matches kind of this list of date opportunities. And they could be like, oh, hey, somebody's putting a date opportunity out at Bar Chef. That's a really cool cocktail place I've been wanting to try.
Mm.
They really love Lord of the Rings. So at that point, you can kind of like pick, you learn from people based off of like places that they choose, the captions that they're putting in. Is it convenient? Because your schedules have to align. Like if again, people have been on the dating apps, have done this. Hey, yeah, they want to meet up. Oh, I can't that day. Oh, I'm busy. Somebody went on vacation. It's been 2 weeks. No one's picking up that conversation again.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's like you've matched. Maybe there's a mismatch in schedules for a couple of weeks, but down the road, somebody, you see a date gets posted, that looks interesting. It kind of, the match doesn't get stale, because it's like if availabilities align, and you look at something that looks interesting, boom, you can just go and request a date opportunity. You can go and request that date, and then as soon as whoever posted it confirms, then you go from there.
So you don't get to chat, but you get to create a profile with a picture, I'm assuming. And do you
Oh
get to
yeah,
see
pictures.
you
Yeah,
know what the
yeah,
person looks like
yeah,
and you know who
absolutely.
you're going
Yeah,
to meet up with.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
And the whole
Um,
goal is you matched with somebody and you're not going to chat. You just know that based on their profile, this might be someone you're interested in. You like how they look, you like what they said, and you're like, press a button. Yes, I want to meet them at Bar Chef for 15 minutes for a drink.
Yeah,
Huh.
pretty much. So there's like so
Okay.
one thing you can do is you can send one message with your like, just kind of like a hey, like to
Okay.
show something. You can make a little comment, just like show something, personality, whatever, like something that might be interesting, so they can read it and be like, oh yeah, cool, like they actually read my profile, like. Um,
Mm.
and then the other thing we do, so not to complicate things too much, but one cool and what we think is fun thing that we do is when you do post the date. So when you see all these date options, you know it's from your matches, but until the date's confirmed, you don't know which match posted which date. And the idea is to not have you
Oh.
second guess. The idea is to like not have you second guess. Like you've matched, and that should be like good enough. So it's like you're not going and like kind of sneak peeking ahead of time.
That would be
I don't
me.
know.
I
We
would
might,
totally do that.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. I don't know. There might be some feature changes and stuff down the road, but that's kind of how we're angling it now, just to make it like also a little more fun, you know.
Hmm.
And but you do like ultimately once the date's confirmed, you know exactly who you're meeting up and where, and that's for safety reasons. Like we have to
Right.
absolutely include
Which
that.
we'll
Yeah,
get
and
into a little
for
bit.
sure, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. So can you walk us through the early stages of developing the Hop app? What were some of the key challenges you faced, and how did you validate the idea before launching it?
Fair enough. So there was kind of two launches. So, and this
Okay.
ties in, yeah. So this ties into Valley. So when I first started it, it was honestly just kind of like a project. Like I'm a developer, so I was like, I'm
Like a
gonna
side
start
hustle?
this side hustle. I'm like, this is kind of fun. Like I'm gonna start working on this, and then I launched it, and people were interested, people were curious, people were signing up, but the first version, it didn't have scheduling. So it was kind of like
Mm,
you would just kind of send a blast to your matches that you were available to meet up, and they would kind of have to then and there decide to like go do that. And
okay.
it was a bit like rushed. It was like, and that wasn't really working. And I didn't really do like the proper research and be like, how are people going to
Right.
use this? Da 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 da. But I was still kind of trying to spread the word, still trying to make it happen. And you know, I got approached by this wonderful designer I ended up working with at Collision, and she was fantastic. And she was like, "Hey, you know, this is really cool. I love this concept, but I think you could do this, this, and this, and like we should like run user interviews and do all this." So I'm like, "Whoa,
Mm,
what is?"
mm-hmm.
And I kind of knew about this stuff, but I didn't like. I wasn't. I was just like, "Okay, let me think about it." And then, you know, I did a little bit of research and I got back together with her and I was like, okay, let's do it. So I brought her on and yeah, we did this whole like redesign. We interviewed people. We like, you know, picked at how everything, like the nuances of it. And that was a big challenge because we went through a whole like rebranding and redesign and kind of got to the crux of like, hey, users are interested in this, but what will make them actually go and use it?
Mm-hmm.
And so that was a big hurdle because I realized, okay, I can't just like, I don't have all of the answers to everything in my head. I like it, you have to go out there and like figure
Yeah.
out like what people are, how they're going to use it and what they're going to do.
Yeah.
And
The
that was
user
a big
interface
learning.
is usually very important, right?
It's
Yeah.
very important. And it was kind of like, I'm really glad that, you know, she called me out on it and the way that she did. It
Yeah.
was really impressive. She came over, we had a little booth, a little alpha booth for
Yep.
Collision, and she came up and she had this little binder and with like all of these examples and like, you know, was kind of tearing
Mm-hmm.
the MVP
Yeah.
apart. And it was a little hard to hear, but it was also like what I needed to hear kind of
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
You brought up such a good point, and I work with a lot of startups. I've been to Collision many times, and you are like the perfect example of a tech startup founder. So, a lot of tech startups are based on someone who is an engineer or a coder, and they sort of have an idea, and they're like, I'm gonna build it. But then they don't really know the business part of it. And so they think they have, there is this mentality sometimes if you build it, they will come. That doesn't happen. That's what I always tell people. I'm like, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
So like this is such a interesting conversation because we can really go into it. Because I'm always talking to people, and even when I do like public speak, I'm always like, that's not how it works. You can't just like have an idea and build it. Like it's all about the execution because everyone has ideas, right? So
Yeah.
walk us through that early stages of having this wonderful idea and being like really excited about it and then building it and then realizing that it's not just about that there's so much more to it. How did you come into terms of how you were going to lead? What were some of the things that you had to do at those early stages?
So yeah, once we got to that point where we realized like, hey, people are interested and they want to try it out, but then because of the way we've built it, like they're they're limited and they like can't do what they want to do and they can't use the app the way that they're thinking they can use it. Um, that was big because it was going to be like a lot of work and money to like go and really invest it. And I think at that point you kind of just have to you take a bet
Mm-hmm.
that based off what people are saying that it's worth it to go and like make that investment of time and effort and money and try to make it a reality. It's a little bit of a leap of faith, I think. Like even with
Mm-hmm.
all the data that you have, I think it's still because you don't really know at the end of the day. Like you're hearing people and you're trying to solve the problems and do it in the way that they say or that they indicate that they would like to use it. Uh, but you'd never really know. So you kind of have to decide like, do you really believe in it enough to
Mm-hmm.
like to go through with it and
Yeah.
try to make it happen.
So how
Um,
many times did you have to rebuild or restructure it?
that one time was the big that one time was the really the big one where we had to
Mm-hmm.
go and build and restructure. After that it was more like small things where we
Mm-hmm.
realized like, oh, at this point like a lot of people are emailing us that they don't understand what to do next. So it's like, okay, we have to like figure out a way to like make it easy for people to understand. Do we do a tutorial? So at that point it's just like smaller things that come up.
Mm-hmm.
But people were into like the big picture. Like they got it. They stopped asking like, how do I chat with this person? That was like in the first version, like we didn't even communicate that totally clearly where people were like, okay, I matched. Like, how do I talk to them? We're like, no, 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 no. Like that's not how it works. So it was
Yeah.
like, yeah, like figuring out those things and be like, hey, how do we really like, give people a feel for how this thing works? And yeah,
Yeah.
I think it was really just that one big time where we had to like go back to the drawing board and kind of like redo a lot.
Yeah.
But after that, it's been mostly just like tweaks
Mm-hmm.
for the most part.
And
Yeah.
how did you go from, being a engineer to leading a company and being the founder of this company and having people under
Just
you and having to manage them?
just one step at a time, honestly. Yeah. You just go one step at a time and you just try and solve the next problem.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple of like good quotes that I like, and one of them is like, stop trying to look at the top of the mountain and just take the next step. So that's
Yeah.
really all it is. It's just, okay, you have problems and then you try to figure out how to solve them. And then you're like, okay, well, we need somebody to design. So then you bring on somebody to
Yeah.
design and yeah, you just kind of like go from there. And you can't just be like, okay, here, we're going to assemble this team and do all these things. It's
Mhm.
like, well, you could do that. Like, that's one approach. That's one approach. It's
Yeah.
not the approach I took
Yeah.
because I wasn't sure that I was going to go all in on this thing. I didn't from
Mm.
day one go and be like, hey, um, let's go raise a bunch of money and solve this problem.
Yeah.
Because at that point too, it's like you give up a lot of control.
Equity.
Yeah, equity too, and like say, and like I think one thing that really inspired me to want to work on something like this is that I liked I felt like I had interesting ideas a lot of the time when I was working for other people. And anybody at any moment could just be like, okay, cool, thanks for your input. We're not going to do that. And it's like, I really think that it would be good. I really think it would work.
Yeah.
So like just being able to have that say and be like, oh, we're gonna do this. We're gonna go for
Mm-hmm.
it and kind of
Yeah.
yeah, trusting your own decision process and being able to do that, I think was like
Yeah.
my inspiration. And I didn't want to lose that. And I didn't want to kind of have to compromise.
Mm.
Um, on the vision, you know?
So
Because it's just, yeah.
how did you fund the startup, and have you raised any capital
Yeah,
since?
so it's all been bootstrapped. It's all been
Okay.
bootstrapped.
That's my favorite. I think that's what
I know.
everybody should do, by the way. I know it's hard, but
I think we're looking that we might try to raise some money.
okay.
Uh,
You're at that point now.
we're at that point where like yeah, it's like looking like that might make the most sense. But there's options out there. Like there's bootstrapping, but also like we're developing an app, and there's so we were looking at options for grants and things like that, and we came across like shred credits.
Yeah, shred
Um,
credits are great.
Shred credits are great, and that like bought us like a decent amount of runway. Like you can do quite a bit,
Mm-hmm.
and so just kind of like yeah, just getting in the mud a little bit and looking for like little pieces of money here and there, some
Mm-hmm.
money, a little bit of money coming in from like subscriptions and whatnot. Although really that's not our focus at this point is revenue. It's really just growth.
So how many people do you have roughly on the platform at this point?
It's a few thousand right now, so it's not like
Okay.
a crazy amount. I think we hit like
Mm-hmm.
2,000 monthly active last month in Toronto,
Nice.
which is nice. We're available everywhere and in the US, but we're kind of just trying to do like city by city a little bit right now. We tried to do the like overall growth and see if we could like market wide at
Mm-hmm.
first, and that was like tricky and it was expensive, and it was like it's a little bit of a cold start problem with dating apps
Right.
where you need like a ton of people in a local area. So we tried that for a bit, and we're like, it's not sticky enough and it's very expensive. So maybe we like try to go like bring it back a little bit. Still putting feelers out there like globally, and like building SEO, and like because it's important to get that or try to
Yeah.
get that organic growth over time. So it's not like we've stopped that, but it's just like we're doubling down on sort of Toronto right now, and then gonna go city by city as we move forward. So that's the plan.
Nice. I
Yeah,
like it. How do you deal with catfishing and all of the security and crazy things that happen on apps? I mean, I think I tried a dating app like once years ago, and it just wasn't for me. I hate it. I just it's not my thing.
sure.
So
Yeah,
I promised myself I would never use it again, and I hope I don't have to. I like to meet people like naturally, but one of the things
absolutely.
also as a woman, it just scares me because you hear all these stories about, first of all, usually people are not just on one app. They're on a million other apps, or they're on every app. And then are they a real person, or you know what I mean? Like are they like dating multiple people, and are you going to be safe when you meet up with them? How do you deal with all of that?
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot to unpack there. So, I'll let me start somewhere, I guess.
Yeah.
As far as people dating multiple people, there's not a whole lot we can do about that.
Right.
I feel like mostly people are good people, and you kind of suss that out. That's why you try to meet people in person and not talk to them and chat with them for forever and try to form some false idea of how this person actually is. I think when you
Mm-hmm.
meet somebody fresh, you'll get your instinct will be a little stronger. But let me
Yeah.
address some of the other points that you made. So first of all, there's less of an incentive for bots and catfishes to really go on our app because there's no chatting, right? So a lot of these bots, they're people who are trying to get money out of people or scam them, or some people, they don't have experience online, and they'll lure them to their place, or have bad intentions that way. You're meeting somebody at a Starbucks. It's a
Mm-hmm.
lot harder to be nefarious. It's a very public
Yeah.
place. There's people around everywhere. That being said, we have other security measures that we've built in. So we have verification built in. That's like pretty
Okay.
standard now across the dating app spectrum. So we're meeting people because people are meeting at locations that we're aware of because it's all done through the app. People can opt into a safety monitoring. So it's very similar to like what something like Uber
Mm.
might do, right? Where your like location is being like, right, they know. So it's like it's a disincentive. Like we have all of that information. Like would like if you did
Mm.
something, we would immediately be able to share that with the authorities. And so it's a disincentive
Right.
for anybody to do something like sketchy. We make it very easy with just a button click. You can send a text message to a safety friend with all of your date details. Be like, hey, I have a date with
Mm.
this user at this time at this place.
Oh,
Like,
I like that.
I'm gonna do a check. And it's not obviously you can still do
That's
that.
cool.
Anybody can do that with a friend, but literally you
But
just type
yeah,
it in. So there's like it's super easy. You just can share it. You can even, save your safety friend. And
yeah.
one thing that we're looking to add very soon actually is sort of after the date, after you've met up, just a little quick like, hey, did this person like match their profile? Did you feel safe? Just so we know, right? And so
Mm,
like if we get like a flag that somebody did like their profile wasn't matching, blah, 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 then we can look into it. And then there's all of these extra things. And it's stuff that dating apps that don't have this mechanism of like going and meeting up at an actual place, they can't really implement because it's all chat based,
yeah,
it's up to you at that
yeah.
point. So
So it's actually more
yeah,
beneficial not to have the chat.
in a way, yes, because it's like
Yeah, it's
it's an
more
attack
secure.
vector. It's more secure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember once I took an Uber and I gotten stuck in traffic for like an hour. And I remember the Uber app messaged me and they're like, hey, we've noticed that you've been in the same car for this amount of
Yeah.
time. Are you okay? And I thought
Yeah.
that was really cool. Right. And now you just
Yeah.
mentioned that you kind of do the same thing. And I think, like, especially for women, it would make you feel really safe.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's totally it. And yeah, we even have that during the date because like on the dates we have these like little card games like kind of get to know you and like get into the fun
Mm,
questions. So on that we have a little button too being like, hey, like send your safety friend like a call you message or a come get you message or whatever. So you can just tap that real quick as well while
right.
you're in there. Yeah. So yeah, yeah.
I love it. I mean, it sounds like you're building something that makes sense. Hopefully it does. What have you learned about user behavior in the dating app space that surprised you the most? Were there any assumptions that you had that were challenged along the way?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing I learned is that perception is everything. Like
Mm,
what people think and feel, not that it matters more than what the actual thing is, but it's more salient to people, right? Like
mm,
it's like so for example, we're doing all of these implementing all of these safety measures, but we were doing interviews and saying, hey, like what makes like what would make you feel safe or like what makes you feel safe? And the number one thing we got, which shocked me, was a really clean UI in the app. Like a really clean professional app makes me feel like I can trust the users and I feel a lot safer going on the dates. And it's like,
really?
wow, that doesn't, yeah. And I'm like, that doesn't
Yeah.
actually make you any safer, but sure. But and obviously we have a responsibility. Like we still want to do all the safety things. Like even if
Yeah,
that's
of
not the number
course.
one thing that you think is the most important, we're still going to go ahead and do all that stuff because we think it's important. But also, hey, it's our responsibility to make the app look super clean and nice and easy to use, and
Hmm.
make people feel safe that way too, if that's what's important to them, and that gives them that feeling of comfort. So that
Right.
was an interesting learning. I was like that when that one came back from the user results, it was like I thought it was a little funny, but yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
But a lot of founders like either have two things in mind, right? It's like, no, this is my baby. I want to build it out. I want to build a business out of it. I want to run it. Or they're building it with the intention of eventually selling at some point and just going and living their best lives.
yeah, I don't think I have necessarily either in mind in a way.
I
Like
think it's because you're an engineer. I think it's because you're an engineer. Seriously. You just
yeah,
think differently, right?
yeah, like it's not like a big payday doesn't sound amazing, and because it buys you so much freedom. And honestly, it would be like, okay, what's the next project then that I'm gonna work on?
Mm,
Can I
yeah.
go solve some other problem for people? Like you have to weigh one against the other too, right? It's like if somebody comes and offers you $100 million, it's like to say, oh, it's my baby, I want to protect it, this is something good for people, what are they going to do with it? Sure, but on the other hand, I could go do a lot of good things for a lot of people with
Yeah,
$100 million, right?
that's
Like,
true.
so yeah, you can't. I don't think you can say you can give any one definitive answers because you have to weigh the alternatives
Yeah.
too, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
So yeah,
So one
maybe
of
it's
the
because I'm an
things
engineer. I don't know.
I love to talk about on here with every founder is always about, lessons learned, failures, setbacks. Can you share one of the major obstacles you encountered or failures while you were building the app, and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, like I think again it goes back to the first version. I think that was just again the biggest fail.
Mm.
Um
But
yeah,
why do you
just
think
like
that is? Why do you think it was a fail?
I think it was a fail because I didn't go into it from the beginning like we're going to do this, we're going to make it happen. Like because I
Mm,
started it as a side project and I was like, "Oh, like I'll work on this every day," but like I don't know, it's just like I'm like I felt like I hadn't committed, right?
mm,
And from a, how are we really going to make this happen? How are we really going to put this in the hands of people and make sure that they're using it? It was like, okay, I'm going to build this cool thing and I'm going to try to get momentum and then maybe I'll make it into a real thing. And because I took that
mm,
approach, I got to a point where it's like, yeah, because you did that, you kind of ignored a bunch of things that you just didn't like or didn't want to work on, because like you wanted to do the coding and you just like that was the fun thing for you.
yeah.
So you only did the fun thing, which is fine. You should do things that are fun and that are interesting to you. But
Mm,
when you're trying to build something bigger, you have to consider that there's like all of these other factors that are important. And when I had that realization, I had to kind of pause and take some time and be like, am I going to really run with this and really make it a
mm,
thing?
yeah.
Then I have to do it right, you know?
How much
So
did that set you back?
uh, pretty much a year.
Okay.
Pretty much, yeah. It pretty much set like yeah, like 6 months to a year, closer to a year. Yeah.
And
It was,
like what you're saying is something that I hear typical all the time, startups that have these great ideas and they just don't execute because they just don't know, right? And you don't know what you don't know. But if you could go back in time and give yourself some advice to your earlier self, what would you say?
oh, I would say decide now if you're really going to do this thing. And if you are really going to do it, um, do it like a real business and like
Right.
from the beginning and treat it seriously. If you yeah, or just like have your little side project, but don't or do something like way smaller. But if you're
Mm-hmm.
going to try to do something that um really it has to become big in a way, right? Like
Yeah.
this, especially this industry and this kind of thing, then yeah, just decide from the beginning, kind of like make that decision and kind of go all in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How are you competing against these big whales?
They're almost competing against themselves at this point. So
Yeah.
the industry is growing, like the
Mm-hmm.
industry's overall is getting bigger every year. But if you look at what's happening to the biggest players, they've been taking some hits recently.
Okay.
Their user base is dropping. I think there's been some drops in share price. I haven't checked very recently, but I was kind of just like, you keep on top of the news in the space to see what's happening. And yeah, people are kind of over what the big players are doing, but there's still a lot of demand for dating and anything that facilitates dating. So
Mm-hmm.
um, a lot of people are looking more towards doing things live. But apps are a part of our life at this point, right? Like
Yeah,
they're not
that's
going
true.
away. So the industry is sort of ripe for some disruption, and these big players they have a lot of money and they have a lot of resources, but it's hard for them to pivot too quickly or to make too many big moves. Um, it's like it's tricky. So I think like it's kind of ripe for a little bit of disruption, right? Like they have shareholders they have to
Mm-hmm.
so they can't go and be like, hey, we're going to make this really risky play. The shareholders would be like, what are you doing? You
Yeah.
have like a steady standard business model. You have expectations in terms of your returns. Like this is working. What do you like? You're
Yeah.
gonna,
Why are you going to change it?
hey, why are
It's
you
almost like they
changing it?
can't pivot quickly, right? They
Yeah,
can't change their business model. You know?
yeah, it's a lot harder. I think they can try and they can do little experiments, but I think mostly it's like small to medium sized changes. They're not going to be able to go and be like, hey, we're changing the way we're doing this 100% overnight. Like it's,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think they just can't do it. It's not feasible for them, given kind of like the situation that they're in.
Yeah.
So
But you do have companies like Bumble, for example, that built in a whole new feature, which is making friends. right?
Yeah,
Which has nothing to do with
I
dating.
love that.
So
I love that.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
I've never used it, but I've talked to people that were like, oh, I have a hard time making friends, so I joined Bumble. I'm like, what do you mean you joined Bumble to make friends? And they're like, yeah, they have this whole other feature, so you could see how their mindset is changing around. Like, maybe this is not gonna sustain us, as much as we thought. And now we're going to
sure.
develop another, business model out of it. So I think a lot of them are thinking about it. I don't know about like Montreal, but in Toronto, like people are doing meetup running groups so that
Yeah,
single meetup running groups and soccer and gym and like and sometimes I'm walking and I see like groups of hundreds of people all going for a jog, and that's what it is. It's just single people going for a run at
yeah,
night. And I'm like, it's so weird, but that tells you how much people are craving that personal side of
yeah,
dating and feeling like you're at the bar and you see that person across and you kind of like, have a little bit of a connection, and then they
yeah.
come
And like,
talk to you. Like, I think people crave and they miss that.
absolutely. And kudos to those groups. I think like the more that people do things like that, I really support those kind of
Yeah.
new things. And people are looking to do like health is a big thing now that like,
Mm-hmm.
the newer
Yeah.
generations, they're like really focused on. So these running groups and stuff, it's like it's a lot healthier than like, going out drinking. So I support that. I think that that's a good move for people.
For
Yeah.
sure. And I think what you're doing now is sort of like in the middle of both of that, right? So you have the dating app world, but then you have that personal aspect to it, but you've eliminated the problem, which is the chatting and the swiping,
Yeah,
right?
like
You've
yeah, yeah.
you've
We've so yeah,
completely
we've
eliminated that.
we've completely eliminated that. Like you can go jump on the app, create a profile, get some matches, and then be posting a date and kind of have it like the whole thing. Like you can go from matching to like having a date scheduled within like 20 minutes of time spent in the app. Like it's like a lot faster.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I think it's exciting. It's like I don't know, it's a little bit more fun. And you could do like double dates. That's something that's really easy to set up with the app too. It's like you
Oh,
could set up,
really?
sure, why not? I mean, like if you and a friend are on there and you want to like just set up the same date schedule, just set a few
Mm-hmm.
availabilities with the same date schedule at the same spot, and just like wait for matches to kind of pick the same spots, and then you can just go and you have your friend right beside you there, and maybe you let them know you're both there with your friend and you have like an
Yeah, yeah,
actual
yeah.
double date, or maybe you're just at two different tables and you to go talk about your date after or whatever, however you want to play it. But yeah, it's just like adds an
Cool.
extra dynamic and stuff. And yeah, I
Yeah.
agree, like bringing things to the in-person, like, and technology, like I said, it's still there, that still has its value, but like let's use it right, like
Mm.
it's about the personal connection. It's not about the tech is a
Yeah.
tool. It's supposed to be there to just help you. And it has, I think, these big dating apps are big for, I think, a reason. Like they have helped
Yeah.
people. People do go on dates with them.
People
But
get
I think
married.
people get married. It's
I
great.
have
Like I think
friends.
it's
I have
good.
friends
Yeah,
that have gotten married and engaged from it for sure. It does work,
it does
but
work.
it's
Yeah,
like double the work.
it's just like
Like
it's a
my
lot.
friends
Yeah,
were on it for years before they actually met somebody.
yeah, yeah. So I think
So
it
it's
could be
almost like
done. It
time
could be done better.
wasted.
It's time wasted and it's not fun time. Like again, like when you started off saying this, it's like everyone says they hate it. That's not, if
Yes,
that's not a bad signal for health, I don't know what is. Like
that's
somebody's
true.
gotta say they like it at some point. Maybe we can make
That,
that
that
happen.
that's so true. Um, it was so nice to chat with you, Anthony, and we're most almost running out of time. But before we do, I just want to ask you one last question. Where do you see Hop in the next 5, 10 years?
So, well, first of all, thank you so much, Sonia. It was a pleasure to be on here as well. I really appreciate you having me
Yeah,
on
of
here.
course.
Um, in 5 years, well, I hope everyone who's in the online dating space and sees value in
Yeah.
it and is giving it a go is on Hop and giving it a shot and having fun with it, and maybe the majority of people are saying that they're enjoying their dating app because it's easy and fun, and
Yeah,
they're meeting some cool people in a safe way, and they're enjoying it. That's my hope.
I love it.
Yeah, and if we can make that happen, then I'm a happy guy.
I want to thank Anthony for joining me today and sharing his journey, the insights behind building Hop Dating, and his vision for bringing real life connections back to the dating world. It's inspiring to see how you've combined your tech background with a deep understanding of human connection to create something truly innovative. If you're tired of endlessly swiping and ready to experience real life dating, make sure you check out Hop Dating app. So thank
That's
you so
fair.
much for taking the time to walk us through your journey as a founder, your vision, and building something that is actually innovative and trying to help people. I think that's really important, especially in tech.
Thank you so much, Sonia. Yeah, I really appreciate your kind words.
And that's a wrap. To our listeners, thank you for joining me on this journey of learning, growth, and inspiration. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on your favorite platform and connect with our community on social media. I'd love to hear your feedback, so leave a review and let me know what topics you'd want to explore in future episodes. Remember, the future belongs to those who embrace challenges, adapt with tenacity, and keep pushing forward. Keep growing, keep pivoting, and most importantly, stay tenacious in your pursuits. Thank you for tuning in, and I look forward to bringing you more insightful conversations in our upcoming episodes. This is Sonia signing off, but as always, keep chasing your dreams with tenacity.